And actually, going through what you and the rest of the family have gone through.
I think when you are bereaved at a very young age, anytime really, but particularly at a young age, I can resonate closely to that. You feel pain like no other pain, and you know that in your life it's going to be very difficult to.
When Prince William suddenly became the owner of one of the most powerful private estates in the world, few people expected the ripple effect it would cause inside the royal family. But one quiet decision about who stays and who goes has reportedly left Queen Camilla's inner circle deeply unsettled. And that was only the beginning. The inheritance that shifted royal power. On September 8, 2022, the death of Queen Elizabeth II did more than mark the end of a historic reign. It triggered an immediate and complex transfer of titles, responsibilities, and vast financial assets across the British royal family. In a single moment, the structure of royal power quietly shifted. King Charles III ascended the throne, inheriting the responsibilities of monarch along with the crown estate and the immense symbolic authority that came with it. But while much of the world focused on Charles becoming king, another transformation happened almost simultaneously. Prince William's life changed overnight. At just 40 years old, he inherited one of the most powerful positions within the royal system, the title of Duke of Cornwall. And with that title came control over a financial empire that most people rarely hear about, yet sits at the center of royal wealth. The Duchy of Cornwall. To understand why William's decisions now carry so much weight, it's important to understand what the duchy actually is. Established in 1337 by King Edward III, the Duchy of Cornwall was created specifically to provide financial independence for the monarch's eldest son and heir. The arrangement was simple in principle but extraordinary in scale. Whoever holds the title of Duke of Cornwall controls the estate. And today, that estate is massive. The Duchy of Cornwall includes roughly 135,000 acres of land spread across England and Wales. It contains farms, residential properties, forests, commercial buildings, coastlines, and entire communities. It even includes the Isles of Scilly, an archipelago of islands off the coast of Cornwall. These lands are not simply ceremonial holdings. They generate real income. From tenant farmers and holiday cottages to property development and long-term investments, the duchy functions as a vast business operation. By recent estimates, the estate is worth well over $1 billion and produces tens of millions in annual income. In fact, in one recent financial report, Prince William received around $30 million in income from the duchy in a single year. And unlike most wealthy individuals, the structure of the duchy makes its taxation unusual. Legally, it is exempt from corporation tax, though both Charles and William have voluntarily paid income tax on their earnings from it. Still, the scale of the wealth involved remains staggering. But the Duchy of Cornwall is more than just a source of income. It represents something even more important: control. Whoever manages the duchy decides how the land is used, who works within its operations, and which projects receive funding. That authority extends to hundreds of employees, property managers, financial advisors, and contractors who maintain the estate's daily operations. For decades, that power belonged to King Charles. During his 40-plus years as Duke of Cornwall, Charles used the duchy as a platform for many of the causes he believed in most strongly. He promoted organic farming long before it became fashionable. He invested in sustainable architecture and rural development projects. He even turned parts of the duchy into experimental communities focused on environmental stewardship. But when Charles became king, control of the duchy passed instantly to William. And with that transition came a subtle but significant question. Would William continue running the estate the same way his father had? Or would he begin shaping it in his own image? Early signs suggested that William was already making his intentions clear. Managing an estate of this size requires hundreds of decisions every year. Financial strategies, development projects, staffing choices, and long-term planning. And one of the first areas where William's leadership began to show was in the people surrounding the duchy itself. For years, many individuals working within the estate had built close relationships with Charles and his inner circle. These connections were often long-standing, sometimes stretching back decades. But the arrival of a new Duke of Cornwall meant those relationships would inevitably be reviewed. And one particular decision quickly attracted attention. For nearly 2 decades, Queen Camilla's sister, Annabel Elliot, had played a role within the duchy's operations as an interior designer responsible for helping oversee the decoration and design of various rental properties across the estate. Annabel Elliot was not just any contractor. She was Camilla's closest sibling and a trusted figure within Charles's extended circle. Over the years, she had been paid varying amounts to contribute her design expertise to properties within the duchy portfolio. Her work helped shape the appearance of several cottages and residences used for tourism and rentals throughout Cornwall and other duchy lands. In many ways, she had become a familiar presence within the estate's internal network. But when William assumed control, that arrangement came to an end. Reports emerged that Elliot would no longer be retained under the duchy's payroll structure. According to royal commentators, the decision was not presented as criticism of her work but rather as part of a broader restructuring under William's leadership. Still, the symbolism was difficult to ignore. After nearly 20 years connected to the duchy, Camilla's sister was quietly removed from the operation. At the same time, William reportedly brought in advisors and associates he personally trusted, including individuals from his own professional and social circle. To some observers, the move looked like simple organizational reform, something any new leader might do when taking control of a large estate. But within royal circles, the decision carried deeper meaning. It suggested that William intended to establish clear boundaries between the duchy's operations and the extended families connected to the royal household. In other words, the future king was beginning to shape the institution on his own terms. And that subtle shift did not go unnoticed. Because while the Duchy of Cornwall may appear on paper as a business enterprise, within the royal family it also represents something else entirely: influence. Financial connections to royal estates can create long-standing networks of trust and access, relationships that sometimes last for generations. By adjusting those relationships early in his tenure, William signaled that the era of Charles's leadership over the duchy had officially ended. A new chapter had begun. But what made the situation even more complicated was the deeper history between William, Camilla, and the past that still lingered over the royal family. Because behind the financial decisions and staffing changes was a much older story, one that began decades earlier during the most painful chapter of William's childhood. And that history would make every decision involving Camilla's family far more sensitive than it might appear on the surface. The Annabel Elliot decision that sparked royal ripples. For years, the Duchy of Cornwall quietly functioned under the leadership style of Prince Charles. His management approach reflected the relationships he had built over decades: trusted advisors, long-standing collaborators, and individuals who had become part of the extended network surrounding the estate. But when Prince William took control of the duchy in 2022, that network was suddenly subject to review. And one decision in particular quickly caught the attention of royal observers. The name at the center of it was Annabel Elliot. To many outside royal circles, Annabel Elliot might not sound familiar. Yet within the royal household, she has long been a well-known figure. Elliot is Queen Camilla's younger sister and one of the people closest to her personally. Beyond family ties, she also had a professional role connected to the Duchy of Cornwall. Annabel Elliot is an accomplished interior designer known for her work in traditional English country house style, an aesthetic blending historic architecture with comfortable, modern interiors. Her work had been used across a number of properties associated with the duchy. These properties were not royal palaces or ceremonial buildings. They were part of the duchy's extensive portfolio of holiday cottages and rental residences, many of which attract tourists from around the world. The interiors of these homes play an important role in maintaining the charm and appeal of the estate's hospitality business. For nearly 2 decades, Elliot contributed her design expertise to these properties. Financial records from duchy accounts show that she received payments over the years for interior design services connected to rental properties located in Cornwall, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. These payments varied depending on projects, with reported amounts ranging from roughly £19,000 to more than £80,000 annually. While not enormous sums relative to the duchy's total wealth, the arrangement reflected something more significant than simple contracting. It represented a professional link between Camilla's family and one of the royal family's most valuable estates. For many years, that arrangement existed without controversy. After all, Prince Charles himself had approved the working relationship. At the time, it appeared entirely natural, Camilla's sister contributing to projects overseen by Charles as Duke of Cornwall. But the situation changed when William became the new Duke. With the transition of leadership came a broader internal review of how the estate operated. The Duchy of Cornwall is not just symbolic wealth, it functions as a major organization managing land, tenants, development projects, and financial investments. Any new leader taking control of such a large enterprise would inevitably examine its staffing structure and professional contracts. And according to multiple reports from royal correspondents, one of William's decisions was not to continue employing Annabel Elliot within the duchy's operations. The move was not framed publicly as a criticism of Elliot's work. In fact, sources close to the estate suggested that the decision reflected a shift toward William building his own advisory and operational team rather than maintaining arrangements created under Charles. Still, the optics were impossible to ignore. After nearly 20 years connected to the duchy, Camilla's sister was suddenly no longer part of its professional network. Within royal media circles, the story quickly generated headlines. Some commentators interpreted the decision as a practical step, an incoming duke restructuring the organization under his leadership. Others viewed it as a symbolic moment demonstrating how power within the royal family gradually shifts from one generation to the next. Because in institutions like the monarchy, personnel decisions rarely exist in isolation. They often signal something larger. At the same time Elliot's contract ended, reports suggested that William began bringing in advisors and collaborators from his own circle of trust. Among them were individuals connected to his personal network, including figures who had long-standing relationships with him and his family. To observers of royal dynamics, the message appeared subtle but unmistakable. Prince William was building his own system of leadership, not simply inheriting the one that had grown around his father. Royal expert commentary at the time emphasized that the duchy's payroll adjustments should not necessarily be interpreted as hostility toward Camilla's family. Instead, they reflected the reality that William now carried full responsibility for managing an estate valued at well over £1 billion. That responsibility demanded independence. Yet the decision still created ripples. Within royal circles, relationships between extended families and royal institutions are often delicate. Over time, individuals connected to the monarchy sometimes develop professional roles around royal estates, charitable foundations, and advisory boards. When leadership changes, those relationships can shift as well. And in this case, the shift happened quickly. For Camilla's family, particularly those who had grown accustomed to working alongside Charles's household, the transition served as a clear reminder that the duchy now belonged to a different generation. But the deeper tension surrounding the situation cannot be understood without looking at something else entirely: history. Because for Prince William, the relationship with Camilla's family has always existed within the shadow of one of the most painful chapters of his childhood. A chapter that began long before William ever imagined controlling the Duchy of Cornwall. And that history continues to shape how every decision involving Camilla's relatives is interpreted today. In fact, to truly understand why William's choices draw such intense attention, we need to look back at the complicated personal story connecting William, Camilla, and the memory of Princess Diana. The history between William, Camilla, and Diana's shadow. To understand why a staffing decision inside the Duchy of Cornwall created so much attention, it's important to look beyond finances and management structures. Because the relationship between Prince William and Queen Camilla has always existed within a complicated emotional history, one shaped long before William ever became the Duke of Cornwall. That history begins with Princess Diana. For much of the 1980s and early 1990s, the marriage between Prince Charles and Princess Diana played out under the relentless gaze of the world's media. What had once looked like a royal fairy tale gradually turned into one of the most scrutinized and painful public relationships in modern history. And at the center of the tension was another name: Camilla Parker Bowles. The connection between Charles and Camilla had existed years before Charles married Diana. Their friendship and emotional closeness were widely known in certain social circles long before the royal wedding in 1981. But as Charles and Diana's marriage began to unravel, that earlier relationship became impossible to ignore. For Diana, the situation was deeply painful. And for William and his younger brother Harry, it unfolded during the most formative years of their childhood. In 1994, Prince Charles publicly acknowledged his relationship with Camilla during a televised interview. The admission confirmed what many had suspected, but it also intensified the public drama surrounding the royal family. Just 1 year later, Princess Diana gave her own now famous interview to the BBC program Panorama. During that conversation, she delivered a sentence that would echo through royal history. "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." By that time, William was already a teenager. Unlike most children his age, he was not watching these events unfold quietly within his family. The entire world was watching alongside him. Every headline, every tabloid story, every televised interview. It was an extraordinary level of pressure for a young prince who was still trying to understand his own place within the royal family. Then, in 1997, tragedy struck. Princess Diana died in a car accident in Paris, an event that sent shockwaves across the globe. For millions of people, Diana had become one of the most beloved figures in modern public life. But for William and Harry, the loss was deeply personal. They were 15 and 12 years old. The grief they experienced was not only private, it unfolded in front of an entire world mourning alongside them. Images from that time remain some of the most unforgettable in modern royal history. The 2 young princes walking behind their mother's coffin during the funeral procession through London. For William especially, that moment would become one of the defining memories of his life. In the years that followed, the royal family entered a period of adjustment. Prince Charles continued his relationship with Camilla, and gradually the public conversation around them began to shift. What had once been a scandal slowly transformed into something closer to acceptance, particularly as Charles and Camilla remained together over time. By 2005, Charles and Camilla were married. For William, attending that wedding symbolized an effort to move forward. Publicly, he maintained a respectful relationship with his stepmother and avoided fueling media narratives about conflict. In fact, throughout his adult life, William has rarely spoken negatively about Camilla. But accepting someone as part of a family is not the same as erasing the past. The emotional landscape surrounding Diana's memory has always remained sensitive, particularly for her sons. Diana's legacy continues to hold enormous significance in how the public views the royal family. William himself has dedicated considerable effort to preserving that legacy, particularly through charitable work connected to causes his mother supported. So while William and Camilla have maintained a functional relationship within the royal family, the dynamic between them has always been shaped by the complicated history that preceded it. And that context inevitably influences how observers interpret moments like the Duchy of Cornwall staffing decision. Because when William chose not to retain Camilla's sister within the duchy's payroll structure, the move was seen by some commentators not merely as a business decision but as part of a broader generational shift within the monarchy. For William, the duchy represents more than just inherited wealth. It represents preparation for the throne. The Duchy of Cornwall has historically served as the training ground for future monarchs, allowing the heir to develop experience managing vast estates, financial systems, and organizational leadership. In essence, it is a rehearsal for kingship. Every decision William makes within the duchy, whether financial, environmental, or administrative, reflects how he intends to approach leadership in the future. And that includes decisions about independence. Royal historians often note that when a new generation assumes control of royal institutions, subtle adjustments are inevitable. Staff members change. Advisory networks evolve. Financial priorities shift. The process is rarely dramatic, but it signals something important. The next monarch is beginning to define his own approach. For William, that process is already underway. His management of the Duchy of Cornwall has emphasized transparency, environmental responsibility, and community engagement. Priorities that align with the broader vision he has expressed for the monarchy's future. At the same time, his leadership style suggests a desire to separate institutional management from personal relationships. In other words, while family connections may remain intact, professional roles within the duchy must operate under a structure that reflects William's own leadership. This distinction may appear subtle from the outside, but inside an institution as complex as the monarchy, it carries enormous significance. Because the Duchy of Cornwall is not merely a source of wealth. It is the first glimpse of how the future king will govern. And as William continues shaping the estate in his own image, another question quietly emerges, one that reaches far beyond payroll decisions or family dynamics. What happens when the estates currently owned by King Charles eventually pass to William himself? Because when that moment arrives, the scale of power and property under William's control will grow far beyond the duchy alone. The estates that will one day belong to William. While the Duchy of Cornwall already places Prince William in control of one of the most valuable private estates in the world, it is only part of a much larger picture. Because the real scale of royal property becomes clearer when we look at what lies ahead. Beyond the duchy, two of the most famous and emotionally significant estates in the British royal family remain under the personal ownership of King Charles III. Sandringham House in Norfolk and Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands. Unlike Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, these properties are not owned by the Crown Estate. They are private possessions passed down through generations of the royal family. And that distinction matters. Crown properties belong to the institution of the monarchy itself, meaning they are held in trust for future sovereigns. Private estates like Sandringham and Balmoral, however, function more like family inheritance. They pass directly from monarch to monarch. Both properties have deep historical roots. Sandringham House was purchased in 1862 by Queen Victoria for her son, the future King Edward VII. Since then, it has served as one of the most cherished private residences of the royal family. For generations, it has been the place where the royals gather for Christmas celebrations, away from the intense public spotlight that surrounds Buckingham Palace. The estate spans roughly 20,000 acres of farmland, woodland, gardens, and cottages. It operates as a working agricultural estate while also welcoming visitors during certain parts of the year. For the royal family, Sandringham has always been a place of both tradition and privacy. Balmoral Castle carries an equally powerful legacy. Located in the Scottish Highlands, the Balmoral estate stretches across more than 50,000 acres of mountains, forests, and rivers. It was purchased in the 19th century by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria, who fell deeply in love with the wild beauty of the Scottish landscape. Over the years, Balmoral became known as the monarch's personal retreat, a place where the royal family could relax, hike, fish, and enjoy a degree of normal life far from the formal duties of state. For Queen Elizabeth II, Balmoral held special significance. It was where she spent many of her summer months and where she often hosted close family members and political leaders in a more informal environment. And it was also where she passed away in September 2022. Following her death, ownership of both Sandringham and Balmoral passed directly to King Charles III. That transition happened quietly, without the kind of public ceremony that accompanies royal titles. But it marked the beginning of another future transfer already written into the structure of the monarchy. Because when Charles eventually passes away, those estates will move again. And the next owner will be Prince William. At that moment, William's control over royal property will expand dramatically. He will no longer manage only the Duchy of Cornwall. As king, he will inherit the personal estates currently belonging to Charles, including Sandringham and Balmoral, along with the vast responsibilities that come with them. These estates are more than valuable pieces of land. They are deeply symbolic places tied to the emotional history of the monarchy. They are where monarchs rest, where family traditions unfold, and where the royal household retreats during moments of grief or reflection. But they also function as complex organizations requiring careful management. Each estate employs dozens of staff members responsible for land management, conservation, hospitality, and maintenance. Decisions about who works there, how the land is used, and how the properties evolve over time ultimately rest with the owner. And that means those decisions will eventually belong to William. For observers of royal dynamics, this future transfer adds another layer to the story surrounding the Duchy of Cornwall. Because William's early choices as Duke of Cornwall offer a preview of how he might approach these much larger responsibilities. His decision to restructure parts of the duchy operation, including the removal of Camilla's sister from its payroll, suggests that he intends to run royal estates with a strong emphasis on professional independence. Family relationships may remain cordial, but estate management appears to be treated as a matter of business. That approach could have important implications in the future. When Charles eventually passes away, Camilla would likely take on the role of Queen Dowager. As the widow of the monarch, she would maintain status within the royal family and likely continue certain public duties. However, the ownership of Sandringham and Balmoral would not remain with her. Those estates would pass directly to the new king, Prince William. In practical terms, that means William would ultimately decide how those properties are used, who manages them, and who holds roles within their operations. For Camilla's extended family, that reality creates a certain degree of uncertainty. Under Charles's leadership, individuals within Camilla's circle had occasionally developed professional connections with royal estates. But as the monarchy transitions to the next generation, those connections may not necessarily continue. And that is why William's decisions today are attracting so much attention. Each staffing adjustment, financial reform, or leadership change within the Duchy of Cornwall provides a small window into how the future monarch may approach the broader royal estate system. In many ways, William is already practicing for kingship. The duchy is his training ground. Through it, he is learning how to balance enormous wealth with public responsibility, how to manage relationships within a centuries-old institution, and how to make decisions that inevitably affect people connected to the royal family. These are lessons every heir to the throne must eventually learn. But for William, the stakes are particularly high, because he is preparing not just to inherit land or property. He is preparing to inherit the future of the monarchy itself. And that raises a fascinating question about what kind of royal leadership the next generation will bring. Will William continue the traditions established during Charles's decades as Duke of Cornwall? Or will he quietly reshape the institution in ways that signal the beginning of a very different royal era? The quiet power shift inside the royal family. At first glance, the story surrounding Prince William and the Duchy of Cornwall might appear to revolve around something relatively small: a staffing decision, a change in payroll, or the removal of a longtime interior designer connected to Queen Camilla's family. But within the structure of the British monarchy, even small decisions often signal something much larger. Because the monarchy is not just a family. It is an institution built on hierarchy, inheritance, and gradual transitions of power. And what we are witnessing now may be the early stages of that transition. For more than 40 years, King Charles controlled the Duchy of Cornwall. During that time, he shaped the estate according to his personal interests and priorities. He used the duchy to promote organic farming, sustainable architecture, and environmental protection long before those ideas became widely accepted. In many ways, the duchy became Charles's laboratory, a place where he could experiment with ideas about land stewardship, community development, and ecological responsibility. But now the duchy belongs to William. And with that shift, the estate has entered a new chapter. Prince William's approach so far suggests something very deliberate. Rather than making dramatic public announcements or sweeping reforms, he appears to be adjusting the structure quietly. Staff roles are reviewed. Advisors are replaced. New individuals are brought in, often people William personally trusts. From a business perspective, this is not unusual. Whenever leadership changes inside a major organization, restructuring often follows. A new leader typically wants a team aligned with their own priorities and management style. But in the royal world, these adjustments carry symbolic weight, because they reveal how the next generation intends to govern. The Duchy of Cornwall, after all, is not merely a source of wealth. It is the training ground for the future king. For centuries, it has given the heir to the throne experience managing land, finances, and complex institutions before eventually inheriting the crown itself. Every decision William makes within the duchy is therefore watched closely, not simply because of money, but because it offers clues about the monarchy's future. The removal of Annabel Elliot from the duchy's payroll, for example, may represent only a small financial adjustment in the context of a billion-pound estate. Yet the symbolism resonates far beyond the numbers. For Camilla's family, it serves as a reminder that their professional connections to royal institutions are not guaranteed. For the royal household, it signals that William intends to operate independently from the networks built during his father's long tenure. And for the public, it reveals something else entirely: a generational shift. The monarchy has always evolved slowly, often in ways that are subtle rather than dramatic. Major transitions rarely arrive with loud announcements. Instead, they emerge through quiet changes, new priorities, new leadership styles, and new interpretations of royal responsibility. In that sense, William's management of the Duchy of Cornwall may represent the earliest glimpse of what his future reign could look like. More streamlined, more professionally structured, perhaps slightly less tolerant of informal arrangements between family connections and institutional roles. Of course, none of this necessarily means there is personal conflict between William and Camilla. Publicly, their relationship remains respectful. Both continue to perform royal duties together during major state events and family gatherings. There has been no visible hostility between them. But royal institutions often operate on a distinction between personal relationships and professional authority. And in the case of the duchy, William now holds that authority. Looking further into the future, the scale of responsibility awaiting him is enormous. When King Charles eventually passes away, William will not only become king but will also inherit the monarch's personal estates, Sandringham and Balmoral, along with the wider responsibilities of the crown. At that point, the influence he currently exercises over the Duchy of Cornwall will expand dramatically. He will become the central figure guiding the monarchy into its next era. An era that will likely look very different from the one defined by Queen Elizabeth II's 70-year reign. The expectations placed upon modern royals have changed. Transparency, accountability, and public engagement now play a much larger role in how the monarchy maintains its legitimacy. Future kings will not only inherit castles and estates, they will inherit public scrutiny on a scale no previous generation faced. Prince William seems well aware of that reality. His public image has been carefully shaped around issues like environmental protection, mental health advocacy, and community engagement. In many ways, he represents a bridge between the traditions of the monarchy and the expectations of a modern society. The Duchy of Cornwall offers him a unique opportunity to test how those ideas might translate into real leadership. And so far, his early decisions suggest that he intends to shape the institution on his own terms. Quietly, carefully, but unmistakably. What may appear today as a minor staffing change could, in retrospect, be remembered as one of the first signs that the future king had begun preparing the monarchy for the next generation. Because in the royal world, power rarely announces itself loudly. More often, it reveals itself through small decisions that gradually reshape the institution from within. And Prince William's stewardship of the Duchy of Cornwall may be exactly that, a quiet message about where the monarchy is heading next. So what do you think? Was Prince William right to restructure the Duchy of Cornwall and bring in his own trusted advisors? Or do decisions like this risk creating unnecessary tension within the royal family during an already sensitive period of transition? The story raises fascinating questions about power, inheritance, and the future of the monarchy. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about William's approach and what it might mean for the royal family moving forward. And if you enjoy deep dives into royal history, hidden power dynamics, and the untold stories behind the monarchy, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next royal investigation.